The Provoke Podcast, brought to you by Provoke Media and produced by the international broadcast specialist Marketeers.
Hi, this is Diana Marsalek. I am with Provoke Media. This is our Provoke Media podcast. We're talking today to Leslie Cafferty, Chief Communications Officer at Booking Holdings, and I welcome you to the conversation.
It's great to be here, Diana. Thanks for having me.
Of course. First, can you fill us in a little bit about Booking Holdings, the company and the brands, and what you're doing there?
Yes, absolutely. It's definitely not maybe a household name because it is a corporate entity. It's based in the US, but we're a tech company and we own mostly travel technology companies. So Kayak, a website I'm sure many people have heard of, Booking.com, which is actually our biggest business based in Amsterdam, which is where I happen to be today. Agoda, which is our Asia travel-based brand, Priceline in the US. And then we also own OpenTable, which is travel related, but yes, and we have a lot of smaller brands, but those are our core brands. So very, very large dynamic company with operations all over the world. And it is, we focus on travel and technology and food. So it's all really exciting, fun stuff to work around.
It is, and I'm on. I was telling your colleague that I'm on many of those sites often.
Oh, good to hear. I hope you have good experience.
It's a good experience, but as in your position as communications, one of the things I wanted to ask you about was you have these brands and how they complement each other, how they differentiate from each other. You know, you'll start on Kayak and be pushed to something else. What are the differences that you're trying to capture in user experience? And then how do you relate that? How do you distinguish the brands and basically why?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's probably a complex or dynamic answer of a few different things. So historically, I mean, and really to this day too, I think it's a safe assessment to say we let the brands operate themselves. So every brand has a CEO, their own leadership team. They decide on their marketing investments. They decide on, what their website looks like, how to invest in their own user experience. And sure, there are commonalities. Fundamentally, they do this. Many of them do the same thing. So in that sense, we compete with each other, which is a really interesting dynamic because one of the benefits of being a holding company is you have access to other businesses, other leaders to share thinking, thoughts. Wait, you guys have tried that. It didn't work. Good to know. We're not going to do that. But at the same time, we do compete. So the evolution of that has been a really interesting journey. And I've been here for 10 years, which makes me a dinosaur in the world of tech. But how they present, how they go to market is really dictated by the brands and their own strategy. But that being said, we're all part of the same company. So there are certain, fundamentals that I think we layer over the top of that. So in my world, particularly when it comes to communications, we cannot have one brand, speaking or having a point of view on a certain topic and then another brand having the wildly opposite different one, right? So while branding and user interface can be distinct and unique, sort of things like values, beliefs, and major things that we as a company stand for, there has to be a layer of consistency within that.
And then what are you communicating in that messaging? Because I wonder when it comes down, people obviously want experience when they travel. They want a good product at the end. They want to stay somewhere nice. A lot of it though still comes down to price, right? So how do you get beyond just, you're obviously relaying the price, but beyond that, what are you trying to communicate in terms of a travel and a user experience and your own values?
Yeah, and I think it does vary a little bit by brand. I think, if I wanted to get into some of the space, so price, yes, price, is really important. Travel is a big ticket item. It's not, like diapers that you're buying every day where you're still price conscious, but this is, it's a big ticket item. So consumers are definitely very price conscious, but I think there's also price and value sort of really play together. If there are some consumers that are price is the driving factor. And I would say our Priceline brand in the US, that was really the value proposition. The way they structure, you can make your own offer on deals, it was really for a consumer looking for a good price. But if you look at, booking.com, for example, price is super important to the customer. We know that. So we're always conscious and we're always scouring to make sure our prices are competitive. But there's other value that I think those customers really look for and appreciate. If you're an international traveler, booking.com spends a lot on translations of language, customer support across languages all over the world. So if you're, a German living in Germany and you want to go to Japan and you can't do that with the hotel yourself, there's a lot of value that Booking will deliver in that. That's all done via technology. So I would say their positioning is a little bit more technology forward. So we take the friction points out of travel through technology. So I think each brand will show up a little bit differently. Kayak is a really, really strong flights meta search. So they focus a lot on flights. Whereas if you look at Booking, probably known for and more core of having the largest accommodation space. So again, similar in what they do, but there's definitely different value proposition, for each. In Asia, the market is super unique. We were just having a conversation. We were hosting some journalists from Asia Pacific region actually here today. And we were talking about the importance for many consumers in that part of the world of payments technology, whether that's WeChat Pay, Alipay, and that doesn't make it really convenient outside in other, if you say, I want to pay with Alipay in the US, a lot of local business owners will go, maybe I've heard of it, but I don't take it. I'm not sure how to use it. So, that's a really strong value proposition. That business takes more forms of payments than I think any of our brands. So there are different things that customer segments will really value across each of those.
But how does it, though, compare or contrast to you are a tech company, like you said, and you look at price and pricing, and we'll talk about AI a little bit about informing the travel experience. But, long ago, or some still exist, but brick and mortar travel agencies were about creating the experience, right? Telling you where to go, and this is why you do it, and things that we don't know. So do you have that element in there? Is AI assisting that element? How do you fill those different roles?
Well, your question has just built the perfect bridge into the AI topic. No, but it's very true. People who travel a lot, you want, sometimes you want a curated experience, you want a trusted experience. And so do you trust, your travel agent, and trust? He or she knows what you like, can offer suggestions based on, and then you go to a website that has millions of options and you sort of, what do I do with that? Some level of personalization that we do now through technology, which is honestly, it's the type of thing, the more you use it, the better it gets. So I travel a lot for work, and I like certain attributes when I'm traveling for business. And so now, just because I've been a user, of our sites for a long time, I will get surfaced generally things that are more in line with things that I look for. But that is like scratching the surface. And that's what Gen AI will really, really be able to do. The data that we have as a huge global company, we take that data and put it into our own secure system. What Gen AI can do with that and how quickly it can surface what you want. So we have now, Booking.com, for example, has its AI trip planner, and it's in beta. So we have rolled it out in the US, the UK, and I think Australia as of now. But that is the intent of it. And that's where you go in, and instead of just putting in a search box, like, 3-star hotels in Rome, you can actually go in and say, I want to go with my family to Rome next week. I need it to be kid-friendly, pet-friendly. I want it to be not near a tourist whatever it is. And like, boom, that will be able to surface for you very, very quickly. And then the benefit of that, when that technology gets good enough and it's scaled enough, is that's a global data set, right? Whereas your travel agent, no matter how good he or she was, probably did not know every single place in the world, right? The amount of information that Gen AI can process. So I think the opportunity is super exciting, and we are running at the speed of light to try to, get to a place where technology really can do that well.
Yeah, well, I'm going to log in after we talk, because I was
test it out.
AT, and I was like, I want to go upstate New York to see my kid. I didn't know where to go, and it's like, it gave me a day itinerary. I was like,
no, check it out. See if it works. I did a test yesterday, and I said a place in the Adriatic. And it said it didn't work the first. And then I said, I was more specific. I said Malta, and then I got like amazing options. So it's not but try it out. And it's the more it's used, the more it's trained, right? And the more it learns. And so, yeah, but we're super excited about all of it.
I believe that. And when it comes to, trusting the sites and everything, I mean, you are very heavily, a lot of your sites, I imagine, on sort of the review world, right?
Yes.
That's a tough one. No?
It is.
I
It
mean,
is. Although
people who are happy rarely review things.
yes, well, that is true. So
Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, well, we try to help incentivize people to review. So we will prompt people after your stay. And I don't know what the latest is. We experiment with different forms of incentivization, but like leave a review, or there's ways to do it where, it's not click here and fill out this, long review. It's like, would you rate the service good? And you check us 1 through 5 or stars. We can aggregate that data to at least be like, this hotel has been, rated X amount of times. But it's also, so we do incentivize to get good reviews, but you'd be surprised. It's like the extreme ends. People who have a really great experience actually feel passionate about telling about it. And of course, people who have a really horrible experience really want to tell about it. But I think the other thing about reviews is authenticity of them. And so we work really hard to verify it, to make sure that you could not, if you didn't stay at the DoubleTree Amsterdam, as an example, because it's next to me, you couldn't go on to any of our sites and try to write a review. We would have to match your email to our database of systems to know that you stayed there. So at least what you're reading is not, one hotel owner across the road writing bad reviews about his hotel across the street because they don't, So I think authenticity of reviews is a really, really important aspect of any really like tech platform when you're buying something in a virtual world rather than touching, seeing, feeling.
I feel like you being in comms, you have this sort of unique, I want to say unique, but experience in that you're like kind of living it at the same time, right? Because you're traveling, you're in it, you're
yes.
the business side, you're the consumer side, you're the comm side. So interesting. I know that you've been in comms a while and that you've been a big proponent of diversity, particularly in women in comms. So Can you tell me a little bit about that and your efforts and what you do?
Absolutely. I mean, from the earliest days, I had no idea actually what I wanted to do with my life growing up. I didn't even the day I graduated college. But I knew I wanted to do something, and I knew, I had a really strong work ethic and I wanted to be successful. And success is defined in one's own ways. There's no universal definition of success. But for me, that meant being self-sufficient. That meant doing something every day that I felt I was learning from, that wasn't destroying the world, that I could believe in a mission for, contribute, and prove that I could, continue to grow. And, I've worked mostly at tech companies, and they are very male dominated historically. Right. I mean, I'm not breaking news that there are more, men in tech than there are women in tech. So I definitely saw barriers and noticed that it was harder in places to have, as much credibility in a room as a woman in communications as a man next to me with a PhD in engineering and data science. And it's been but I've been lucky to work for great companies who may not get every step of the way right, but companies that believe that diversity of opinion does make the company a better place. So companies that try, invest, ask questions, what can we do better? But then also really amazing mentors, both men and women along the way, that people I've trusted to ask advice for how they've achieved a certain thing, or to be able to have really open, honest conversations with, I'm seeing this problem. How do you think I should best address it in an organization? Because it's also, nobody wants to be an advocate for something that comes across as complaining. So I think as a woman, I've tried to push to influence organizations, has been a journey in and of itself and learning. But I've had, like I said, a lot of really great people along the way that have helped me do that. But I absolutely believe, I know as we talk about technology and Gen A, right, the people building these models, if we're of a similar mindset, and that's not just gender, but, socioeconomic background, where you come from, your geography, culture, et cetera, right? So I think it's really important to have teams of people that span all aspects of diversity, so you can bring lots of different thinking to the table when you're looking, whether that's in comms alone or as a business, to kind of solve problems and navigate.
Right, because we write a lot about some of the diversity issues or the diversity issue in communications. But often women are, it's a women heavy, at least on the agency side industry.
Yeah.
But I didn't think what you were saying, that you're looking at it to some degree from being in a tech industry, even though, you're blending it. And so you not only have that push to be heard as a woman, but at the same time, and I'm not telling you, I'm asking you, not telling you, but, comms in general is also being asked to be heard with more regard in the C-suite and all of that. So is this kind of a double battle you're waging in?
Yes, I think so. And I think comms in the C-suite is that's happening. And I'll maybe pin that for a second. So I think that has been incredible progress and maybe pioneered a lot by women, because we are and have been a bit of a female, heavy industry. I think we look about it all the time as a team. So I have more women than men on my team. And it's something we look at very consciously. If we have an open position and, we get 5 applicants that are very well qualified women, we will also say, pause. We want to see more diversity in the application process as a starting point, right? But then, like I said, even within that, making sure that, yes, we have more women than men, but they are not all, I am a white woman from outside the New York region, right? So making sure we're not, so we're bringing in at least diversity of other levels. But yes, there's, we definitely in communications have to think about diversity too. And I think that's a really interesting one, because sometimes you see teams say, well, I have more women than men. That's great. And so, well, that is really good. But do you have a diverse team? And so there are definitely different aspects to look at. But then to your question on women in the C-suite, I think in communications, obviously we've been sort of pushing for that for a long time. But I think in the last, 5-ish years, you've seen a tremendous acceleration of that trend. And I think it's a few things. Maybe it was COVID, which is the biggest, crisis to hit the world in many of our lifetimes, one of the biggest. Whether that's, society changing and the expectations employees and communities that we operate in have for us to speak out on issues and navigating really tricky circumstances. And you have CEOs that used to have to talk to their investors and report their financial results. And now you have CEOs that have to do that and do it well. And then they have to talk to governments. And then they have to talk to, protesters outside their office. And then they have to talk to their employees. And then they have to, the role that communications plays in the very vast, complex world that especially public companies and big companies live in now, I've really seen how valued communications has become as a function. And that's really, really, it's been really great to see, and still more to do, but yeah.
Absolutely. And how does that diversity component, so you have global offices that you oversee, correct?
Yes.
How does the diversity in communications and then play out in the different regions of the world?
Yes. Yeah. So we do. I think a little bit more than half of the team in Amsterdam, because that's the hub of our biggest business. But we do have people all over the world. But the one thing about Amsterdam is it's sort of, they call New York a melting pot, but Amsterdam really is a melting pot. There are so many, I'd have to get the stat, but less than half of our employees, and I think I would say far less than half, are actually Dutch. So we have something like over 180 nationalities at the company, and diversity has always been very embedded into our DNA. So we have people from Europe, from South America, from Africa, from Australia, so we do have but that's sort of the company. I'm not sure why the company has always attracted a very diverse workforce. And Amsterdam, I think, is a really great city. They've made it friendly in a lot of ways for expats to come in and for companies to invest. So it's always something, even though we're in Amsterdam, very few, I only have a handful of Dutch people on the team. So very diverse, which makes the job really fun, by the way, because you do meet people from all over the world and you learn so much about your job, but about so many things that I think makes us a better team.
Absolutely. And in terms of the brand and reaching consumers, travel is expensive. So how do you make it accessible? How do you let people know it could be accessible? There's the whole range of travel, right? So you tell me people that don't have the resources to fly wherever they want, whenever they want.
Yes. I think for us, the way we look at it is the nature of our platform is we don't set prices. So we look at the hotel or the airline and we're like, that's you have to run your own P&L. So you determine the price of your room or your flight seat, and then you put that on our website and we'll market that for you and help reach a consumer. So on the one hand, we don't have a ton of control over pricing. And of course, there are factors like inflation, what's going on in the global economy. But what we believe is really important, and we have had, instances where somebody will stay at a hotel and really not like it. And I'm using this as an example, really not like it, have a very strong point of view.
Star.
Yeah. And that review comes in or that, we'll get an email, the person's emailing the CEO and the leadership team. And and then if you look on the site and you look at it, it's a 1-star. It was, €39 a night. And the reviews were similar. You get but the point there is we want options for everybody. So if you're a person, that €39 a night is what's going to get you that travel experience. And we want to make sure that's there. We're not going to filter that off because, it doesn't, it's not a 5-star hotel. So I think we approach it from that perspective to have the widest breadth of options so that if you are, whatever you want, that's right for you. Yeah.
So it's really a lot about transparency.
Yeah.
And that this is what it is.
Yes. Yeah.
And what is your role or responsibility? What does the company see in terms of the future of travel? We look at things now like sustainability and all the various issues. I mean, what are you looking at and what is the role of a company like yours in sort of the larger travel industry?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And it's one we think a lot about. We fundamentally believe travel makes the world a better place. Exposing yourself to new cultures and new people and entering a place where maybe you grew up in a culture where, you were told that that's not good or this isn't good. And then you experience for yourself. So we all believe that. And I think all of our employees deeply believe that. So we believe travel is a force for good. Now, how do you truly believe that and then see what we see, which is that travel does contribute to sustainability, concerns over tourism in places and things that are not great for the world. And I don't think we have perfect answer for that. We don't think the world should just stop traveling, but I think we're approaching it right now. There are 2 ways that we're approaching it. One, we've sort of doubled down efforts on our own company and our sustainability, our carbon emissions, our targets, et cetera, for what we want to achieve. And so we're getting a little bit more aggressive, every year looking at how are we better contributing. This building that I'm in Amsterdam is a new headquarters that we had built, but it was built through a lens of everything being as sustainable as possible, from materials to, solar power, et cetera. So we're really trying as a company to do our part. The second thing we're trying to do is make travelers more aware of sustainable options. So some, hotels, for example, are like fully certified with the best standards of sustainability, and that's great. Others may not have the budget or the ability to meet such rigorous standards, but they care and they're taking measures. How do we make sure that we can showcase that? So going back to information and transparency, right? So hotels or partners of any kind of ours that are working toward making more sustainable steps, if they are doing that, we will try to showcase that information on our website. So people, if they're saying, I like both of these options, oh, wait, they're both good, but this one is actually slightly more sustainable, that is also pivoting consumers to think a little bit more consciously about, are there more sustainable options out there? And then the last thing, I think that we're always in discussions with governments and the industry on regulations. What are regulations that can help improve long-term goals on that front while not saying, we have to stop the world from travel. So I think it's a big effort that requires a lot of involvement and leaning in from companies, governments, our own employees and others, et cetera.
Sounds great. Okay, good. All right. Well, I appreciate your time and all your efforts. It's a pleasure to talk to you. And I always enjoy learning about the travel industry going forward. So
excellent. It's been great to have this conversation. Thanks. I have to ask though, any summer travel plans?
Well, I had my AI trip to upstate New York.
Okay. Yes. So keep posted. I want to hear about how that search goes. And if it's good, that'll be a thumbs up. If it's not, I will take it to our product teams.
Okay, great. But nothing big overseas this year around. But I'm last year was the Amsterdam and France and also this year we're a little closer to home.
That's nice. Less stressful. You don't have to risk all the flight delays and lost suitcases and things like that, hopefully.
Well, that's one good way to look at it.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. All right.
I'll enjoy.
Okay, you too. Take care.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Provoke podcast, brought to you by Provoke Media and produced by the international broadcast specialist Marketeers.